everyone. Welcome to our fireside chat. Today's topic is going to be growth marketing for real estate investors. My name is Andrew Schuster. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Further Insights. We're a digital marketing firm based out of Baltimore, Maryland. And as far as real estate investors go, couldn't think of a better person to talk about that world than Tyler Banks, founder and president of Charm City Builders, Rexstar, and several other businesses. But Tyler, do you want to give a little intro about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Yeah, we pride ourselves as real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and as Andrew mentioned, I'm the owner of Charm City Builders and president at Rexstar, and just happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Tyler and I have been working together for almost a year now, starting with Rexstar and moving into Charm City Builders and now several other businesses. And I'll say we've learned a lot from Tyler, from you, about the business of real estate as a whole. But, I think in the world of real estate investing, specifically residential, when it comes to buying houses for cash, it's a very competitive market. There's a lot of people, especially in this hot market, looking to buy houses, and people are selling inventories, at a high, and it's a really exciting time for the market. But there's a lot of people out there trying to find houses to buy. What you've done, what Tyler has been able to accomplish at Charm City Builders, has been to take a consistent approach to purchasing homes with a standard approach, with a very specific type of customer that you're looking for. And I know before we even started doing the digital marketing side, you had already had a kind of handle on your customer base. So that definitely helped us understand who to go after. But I'll say once we got into actually the nuts and bolts of the marketing, we were able to really learn a lot about what was going to get people to fill out the form and build trust with Charm City Builders to the point that they put their address in and ask Tyler to give them a quote on their home and ultimately, purchase their house for a fair price. So, I know in the industry as a whole, getting leads, getting people to let you take a look at their house without having an agent or something like that is a difficult thing to do. But before we even jump into the digital marketing side, I guess, how did you get started, and how did you figure out a system to be able to go to these people and kind of build trust with them out of the gate?
Yeah, I recognized the one thing that I was lacking was the inventory and the ability to acquire houses at a price that made sense for me to make money. I was working with real estate agents, and that worked for a period of time, but I quickly realized if I'm going to make this a sustainable business, I'm going to need to find a way to get inventory, get properties that are off market, because once it hits the market, most times it's going to be difficult to acquire at a price that allows you to make money. So what I did is I went on an aggressive marketing campaign, and I wasn't really sure, to be honest, how I was going to do it. And I didn't have any real data to back up any of the decisions that I was making. So I was kind of gunslinging, and I scared some folks that were working with me, to be honest. And I just was purchasing TV ads, any type of sponsorship, anything I could do to blanket my brand, and ultimately to get to people to say what we are doing. And what I found was I was spending a lot of money in the wrong places. And with that, though, I was able to refine it over time and not go out of business in the process, but it was pretty close, to be honest. And so that was really where I recognized that I needed to have a refined message to get to these motivated sellers. And there's a lot of similarities in the folks that we target and go after.
Gotcha. But, in a nutshell, we were just talking about, how to basically establish trust in the marketplace before you even worry about digital marketing, and just hearing a little bit about Tyler's experience before we even got into the digital marketing side of things. But one thing I think that's important to note that Tyler just mentioned is the idea of resilience and being able to pivot. And even when there's difficulties in business, in life, you keep rolling and you keep pushing through. So I know that for us, that's fundamentally important in digital marketing. Failing fast is what we call it. Yeah. We want to fail fast. We want to see what's working, what's not working. And if something's not working, we just get rid of it. If it is working, we throw fuel on the fire. So, I think that ability to be nimble and agile is really important, and I'd imagine it's the same in your market.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I say that it was really important is that consistency, and that's one thing that I've heard and I've known is if I'm gonna if I'm gonna get build that trust, it's gonna have to be a consistent message that's constantly being said and done over and over and over again. And that's what I've done, even when it was hard for me to pay for the marketing. Like I remember thinking, I don't know if I can afford this. I knew in my head I have to go on. I can't do this. It can't be a 3 month thing and then I'm out, or 6 month. Like I found a way to, even if it meant I had to pull back a little bit, just to keep putting out that message and the advertisements so that it would start to radiate with with the sellers and people out there in the marketplace. And I would say that the authenticity has been really, really crucial for me. And I'm clearly not scripted, and I'm not an actor by any means. And I would get in front of the screen, and I still struggle with it. Like to be honest, today when I shoot a commercial, I feel so awkward. But that authenticity, my phone rings way more when I'm in front of it doing my awkward things, saying, "We'll buy your house. We're Charm City Builders. We'll make it easy." And when I show up or people show up, they'll comment on the fact that they could tell that we're a genuine company. And so those things I think have really proved to work well for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, and I think that translates really well into the actual data side of things. We started off running some Google ads to just see what the general response would be from sellers in the market. Tyler had already been doing some TV ads and some traditional media and had to put yourself out there, but we hadn't really dove into Google ads in a meaningful way. Um, One thing that I think is a big misconception about Google ads, people think, I'll put a little bit of money into Google and I'll see if anybody bites. And there's not really a lot of methodology behind it. But in reality, something that we've learned broadly across all industries is with Google Ads, you really need enough budget up front to learn what people's response will be before you decide that the strategy's right. And obviously, in digital marketing, you've got to constantly iterate and you got to constantly optimize everything. But messaging is really important. But also, from Google's algorithm and from these ad platforms' algorithms perspective, they have to learn that your brand is authentic and is valuable and is actually delivering to consumers and individuals what they're looking for. So, I think some people would have been discouraged by the preliminary performance of Google Ads when we first started, but because of the way we operate, we were very clear with Tyler, we're going to learn, we're going to experiment, and then once we find what works, we're going to scale. And I think the proof is in the pudding there. When we started off running Google Ads in Q3, we had 13 conversions, and we were looking at almost $1,000 per conversion. So $1,000 a lead. And obviously, Tyler, you're very good at getting people to actually let you, make them an offer once you get them on the phone. But it's not a ton of leads, and it's expensive. $1,000 leads is expensive, even if a lot of them are converting into deals. But we were learning as we were going, and we said, look, we think there's an opportunity here to continue to drive efficacy and get the cost down. And this last quarter, we went up significantly, 35 conversions at $416 per conversion. So amount of leads have gone up, cost per conversion has gone down, and your close rate, your deal close rate is very high. So a lot of people, I think, have a misconception that just throw money into ads and that it'll work. It's so much more than that. The reason that we were able to get the amount of leads up and the cost per conversion down has so much to do with behind the scenes. We optimized the website. We developed an entire content strategy. We're out there on social, and Tyler's really been proactive as a client in taking the lead and putting himself out there and really putting our recommendations to work. But the actual results of that are really clearly rooted in the amount of leads that we're getting and the cost per lead. So I guess, can you talk a little bit about your experience with Google Ads and how are these leads that are coming in?
Yeah, one of the things that I really like is I know early on one of the things that you're really strong at is the analytics, the metrics, and diving into that. I love that. One of my favorite movies is Moneyball. I love love that movie, and so I'm not good at tracking metrics, and that's just not who I am. But I know that I need that, and so one of the things I identified with you is that that's what drives you, and you're like, we're gonna do this based on facts and not just feelings. And I'm a feeling type of guy, so I am naturally like I like the sales stuff, but the metrics are where it's at. And so one thing that I knew is like, all right, I'm gonna give you the runway to test these things out. I know that it's going to take some time and money, and give you what, once I identified that I can trust you and your team, then you can go ahead and do this and tell me if I need to add fuel to the fire, when I need to add fuel to the fire, meaning the money, how much more money should I spend, to give you a recommendation. You were able to do that, and I was committed to it. So I have learned that if you're going to see success in something that you're doing, you can't throw in the towel after a short period of time. So, and what I've seen is these leads, I don't know the exact numbers, me personally. In my team, they're tracking that because I'm not like good at tracking that stuff. So I let them, but I can see is a significant rise in the number of leads that were appointments that were going on, and then the conversions have increased a lot. So I can definitely say that I wasn't sure how it was going to go. And once we committed to it, now I'm a firm believer in it. So
That's great. I appreciate it. And I think a lot of people, especially in real estate, and not just in the house buying business and the home buying business, but just generally speaking, are looking for volume. But we take the approach as an agency that it's a bottom up thing. We want to learn what a user acquisition cost is. We don't want to just broadly say, hey, let's get a budget approved of $100,000 for Google Ads and throw it all out there and see what works, what doesn't work. We want to learn
right.
what the actual market demand is and make sure that our message is resonating. So one of the first things we did was optimize your website. You had a solid website before we got started, but like most businesses that don't have a fundamental marketing function, there was a lot going on. There's I think there's some there's some video and some animations and all sorts of stuff that I think were valuable maybe when it got started and looked cool. But in reality, we didn't have a lot of the conversion tracking. We didn't have Google Analytics installed properly. We didn't really know what was working and what wasn't working. So what we decided to do, actually based on some of the preliminary data from Google Ads, we say, hey, people are coming, but they're not necessarily converting. We kind of just blew it up.
Mm-hmm.
We basically started with a very simple one-page website,
Mm-hmm.
got the core information on there, and made sure it was built to drive leads and drive conversions. And we saw very quickly that people were just clicking and filling out the form, and it was happening at a much faster pace. So, I think that's counterintuitive to a lot of people. People think, your website's everything. And sure, it's got to look good, but I think it's got to perform. So that's the approach we took. And I hope you're happy with it. But at the end of the day, it's not complex. It's not fancy. And I think that's an important note, just generally speaking, is simple and effective is way more important than whatever people's opinion of what something should be.
Yeah. I mean, and for a guy like me, like before I started working with you, I could say that my biggest thing was like, I had an idea, and I saw something on another site that I really liked, and I was like, this is cool. I got to have it. But in fact, it wasn't functional, but it looked cool. And so, having all the style and the thing look amazing, but if it's not functioning, then, why are you in business? Like, I'm not in business to impress people. I'm in business to, make an impact I need to make money doing what I'm doing. And so for me, it was like a little bit of an ego check. Like, hey, maybe my idea wasn't all that great, and we could switch gears and I listened to you guys, and they're like, well, we blew it up and restarted. And while the bus is rolling full steam ahead, you guys were able to transition into the new site without me really missing a beat, which was, really important to me.
Totally. I appreciate that. By the way, everybody, feel free to ask questions as we're going. A lot of specific nuanced information about each one of these topics. Happy to provide recommendations if anybody's looking for website platforms or just figuring out how to get started on anything we're talking about. Feel free to ask as we go. We'll do a little bit of a Q&A at the end as well. But another area that I think is really important that a lot of people undervalue is content,
Hmm.
and not just content to get SEO and to get page ranks, but content that is actually of value to people. Um, we take the approach of basically content hubs. We look at blogs as truly educational resources that are going to be helpful to your prospects, but also are going to rank and are going to do well and are going to be valuable in a variety of areas. So, part of our practice is doing market research, identify opportunities, figure out what keywords to focus on, and then develop content from there. But at the same time, we work with our clients to understand what's important to them and to their clients and to their customers. So some of the blogs we've been doing have just gotten incredible reach on social. We're ranking now for a variety of keywords, both organic and paid terms on Google. Um, and I guess just of the new content that we've been producing over the last 6+ months, what has really resonated with you? What do you think your customers are appreciating of the content you're creating?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I What I really like is when we started, you your team listened to me as to what is important, right? And for me, those things that are important, it's God, family, country, and I keep sharing that. And so the team understands what's really important to me, and then they build everything that I am doing around that, and I keep reinforcing. Most of the time, that's what I'm talking about. Make sure we're pushing this message out through our content, and it comes through. It's not like I'm not preaching out there, but I am putting out lightly like these things that the way I want my customers and people to view us. And you guys have done a great job of project managing, and that's really what I see. It's like I can't commit to like having a master plan and follow it and implement it. And one of the things that's really nice is you guys will keep me on track by you know whether it's Kelsey saying, Tyler, I need that video from you. Like, and most times we get busy in our business, and it's difficult to stay on track if you don't have somebody project managing and leading. Like, it's just not going to happen unless it's somebody else automating or like uh, kind of pushing you to do it. And that's what I get. And I love it because she'll be persistent. Somebody from your team is always being persistent and getting me to do something that I know I need and I want, but it's hard to make a priority to do it because it's just another thing. But that another thing helps drive business. So from that standpoint, it's been amazing with the project management and hearing what is important to me and keeping me on track and staying just in this narrow path of where I'm supposed to be.
Big shout out to Kelsey, our account manager. Fantastic. Um, before we jump into a little more of the technical side, with content production, one thing I do think is an important thing to note is getting ahead and content calendars. So I think one of the reasons we're able to encapsulate your message and your ethos and your brand while providing valuable blogs and content to people is because we're planning 3-6 months ahead. And that allows us to stay focused on new innovative concepts and to continue to push the envelope and be a good partner to clients like Tyler. So, if you don't have a content calendar, you don't need to go crazy, but I think it's worth obviously checking the boxes on any calendars and key events in your world and things like that, so you can distribute it on social holidays, this, that, and the other. But simply picking 6 to 10 topics that are of value to you and your customers, whether it be what to look for and when somebody offers you a cash deal on your house, or how to do a for sale by owner deal, or how to fix and flip a house, whatever those topics are. Get them down and then just do a little bit of research. We use some pretty advanced tools to figure out what the actual search volumes are for certain keywords, and that helps us just decide what's of value and what's worth pursuing. But even Google Trends is a great tool. You can simply go on there and see if people are actually looking for some of the keywords that you think are important. So I think it's important to get a gut check, get a calendar, execute, and keep moving. A lot of people wait until it's too late. Move fast.
Yeah.
And that's something that we really encourage our clients to do. So with content strategy and the website redesign and all the leads that have come in, obviously there's a lot more leads to manage, right? What were you doing prior? And now that we have a bit of a framework in place with HubSpot, what are your thoughts on pipeline management and managing these leads as they're coming in more volume?
Yeah, yeah, and being completely honest, I've struggled with this aspect of the business since I've started in business, and I've been very inconsistent with it. And so, um, and I know who I am, and like I might start out guns a blazing, like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna commit to this amount of time, making sure all the information's in the software that we're using, whatever it may be. And it can be the most amazing software and do all these great things, but if you're not like utilizing it, it's just useless. And so, one thing that I've felt, in meetings with you all is, when I show up to the meeting and I don't have the information and I just keep coming to the meeting saying, "No, I'm going to do that." It feels weak. And so you guys have done a good job in like pushing to like not be uh, judgmental, so to speak, on me, but at the same time, you recognize that I need this and it's a weakness in my business. So it caused an action for me, and that action was to hire a person to do that. And that's her primary focus, is to manage the data, ensure that it's getting inputted so that I can actually, as a business owner, determine where we need to be going and what direction, the metrics that you're so like driven by, which I should be as well. And it's beneficial to the company. So HubSpot is pretty simple from what I'm seeing in it, and just following up with people. So that's the biggest thing. That the biggest takeaway is you staying consistent on ensuring that I am actually doing what I'm supposed to do. And for me, that meant the action that I needed to take was hire somebody to do it.
Totally.
And so that's going really
That's
well.
growth.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about.
yeah,
I think a lot of people look at marketing as just likes and total volume and these vanity metrics, but there's nothing more gratifying than seeing a business grow in an actual way and hiring more people and needing to like build systems to manage the amount of leads and the amount of traffic that's coming, because they're right. It's one thing to get a bunch of leads. It's another thing to get leads that are of actual quality, that are actually business opportunities that your team can actually act on. So if you're just getting started and you don't have a CRM, we highly would encourage you to look at HubSpot. It's free. It's awesome. There's a lot of advanced functionality, but just to keep track of the leads that are coming in, or even if you have just your own leads in your own personal network, get them documented, track the deals, don't leave money on the table. But even a simple spreadsheet, just to just keep track of what's going on. But once you actually get the system going and leads are coming in, HubSpot's a very powerful tool, and being able to automate the whole process and literally can like ping Tyler to say, hey, call this person in an automated way. So it's this really powerful system. Um, I think something else to consider, though, beyond the actual technical side, is influence
hmm
in the market. Um, you obviously have been working for many years to establish yourself as a leader in the community, a leader in the real estate space, and your reputation speaks for itself. But something that we kind of pushed on you was the idea of doing more thought leadership content
hmm
and putting yourself out there in a meaningful way as a leader, and letting people know, not just customers and potential customers, but actually the market and your peers, that this is who you are, this is what you're up to, and building a dialogue from there. So what's that been like for you to take that leap into actually like cementing yourself digitally as a thought leader?
Yeah. No, it's really cool. So one of the guys, it's funny, Santos, who works with me, a good friend of mine. He often says like, "I see you out there now, and I know it's uncomfortable for you," because he knows who I am, and it's really not comfortable for me. But I what I've recognized is that going into things that where you're uncomfortable, that's where exactly where you need to be. So like getting out in front of people and speaking and doing videos of myself, it's so uncomfortable. I don't enjoy doing it. But the more that I'm doing it, the more that I see, hey man, this is exactly what I need to do, because I am uncomfortable in it. And when I do that, by the time I'm done, I'm like, that wasn't so bad. You know what I mean? And what I'm seeing is there is a lot of fruit from this labor that I'm putting out there, and I'm getting more and more people talking to me. Hey, I saw what you're doing over here. I want to come to that. I want to be a part of that. And it's just opening up different opportunities that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten if I didn't put myself out there. And so it's not perfect, and I am not perfect. And some of the videos and things that I've put out, I think the one where I quickly got on and I had like long hair and my facial hair was outgrown. I looked like I was kind of homeless in a way. And I made a comment like I was kind of joking about it. And that thing got shared a bunch of times. And then it struck up conversations that I haven't had, like people that I haven't spoke to in a long time connected with me. And they were asking what I was up to in business. And it may lead to additional business because of just being out there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people are probably scared at the idea of putting themselves out there professionally and sharing advice and information, thinking that their competitors are going to like learn and take it. Like, you're somebody who I've seen not be scared of competitors, but welcome them and want to share information and want to be the best real estate investor you can be. Um, what are your thoughts on competition for people who might be scared to like share insights to build that kind of influence? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think that like having there's times where you have like that scarcity mindset, but what I've discovered and is that the more that I just give, like it just comes back in a way like number one, it feels amazing, and I it's a principle, and like giving always brings back blessings, and those blessings don't have to be financial. It's like making an impact in somebody's life that you're, hey, have you thought about doing this? This thing could be, beneficial to you. And then they start doing well, and they're like, hey, man, thank you, and acknowledging that, like that in itself is really valuable. So I, I don't often feel like competition. There's ever even competition because my style and my approach is me, authentic to me, and nobody is me, and so I don't have to worry about competition at all. Like I'm on TV, other guys are on TV, I'm on digital. Like it's, you know, people that identify with me might not identify with somebody else. So like I just don't have a care in the world, to be honest, about the competition.
Understood. I mean, to that point, let's talk a little bit about social media as a whole. Um, you've we've grown on Facebook specifically like 400% in the last quarter. I mean, we have a lot of new people coming in the mix that may or may not be clients, and may or not become customers for you, may or may not. But at the end of the day, they're following Charm City Builders because they're interested, they're captivated by the message. Maybe they have a family member who they think might be a good fit for you. The reasons might vary, but Facebook's very different from LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's very different from Instagram and YouTube, and they're all very different. But have you found that one platform is better for your business, or do you find value in just trying to be out there in any way you can?
Yeah, so I think it's like for me, it's like on all platforms, right? Because the more that we're putting out there, and there's so many cases where folks have said like, I saw you somewhere, and I don't recall where it was, and went to a football game, and the usher was like, you're the guy that buys houses, and like for me when he said that, man, I was so encouraged. It's like this random guy's like, you're the guy that buys houses, and I'm like, yeah, that's me. So I think it's just getting out there in as many places. So my thought process is yes. Like if there's an opportunity for me to do something before the fear sets in of like, I'm not doing it, I say yes. Like if, if I'm going to be in a video or I'm going to be on a website, a webinar or whatever, I mean, yes, I'm in because the
Well, that's why
more
we
that,
asked you.
yeah,
If you say yes.
yeah, I'm a yes man. And sometimes that brings about some challenges, and I need some no people behind me to like slow me down. Like no, no. So I like just getting out there and all across all platforms. I think each one's slightly different, and there's just so many people that are on it, so I got to be there.
One thing I think is really cool. We obviously study the trends and what's happening content wise and what people are engaging with. We've seen video, as I'm sure everybody out there is aware, video is just very, very powerful right now, and the platforms want you to share video, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. Um, we've encouraged Tyler to start just basically documenting the development of these projects, and showcasing what's happening behind the scenes. And I think just yesterday, There's a video of you with your iPhone just going through a property downtown that you guys are working on, and it was just great to see. And I think people appreciate just being able to get a behind the scenes look at what's going on. But Facebook's different than LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's different than these other channels. So I think thinking about the nuances there are important, but overall, the Charm City brand is there, and
Mm-hmm.
everything you guys do, it's rooted in you as an individual, as an entrepreneur. But I know your wife Candace is actively involved. You got a great team of people who are all part of this brand and have been for a long time. What are your thoughts about branding, even if you're an individual? Let's say you don't have a whole company, but you're an individual cash buyer. Like you put yourself out there a lot, and you make investments and sponsorships and all sorts of different things. But I guess, do you think having a company brand like Charm City Builders is more important than just being able to go out there as an individual, or do you think you can do what you've done as an individual?
Yeah, I think that I could do it as an individual because I think ultimately um, the folks that like working with us, they really, I think at the end of the day, just it boils down to the authenticity. And I kind of subscribe, like not kind of, I do subscribe. I feel like back to the like the social media thing is like you have this picture perfect life and business, and it's far from that. And there's so many struggles, and ultimately I feel like if we boasted more in our weakness and like shared that more and like those failures, and that's kind of like what I'm seeing more is like no, like this project really stunk and like we really missed the mark. I got one right now that I was sick to my stomach about when I went there and saw it. So I think though, like if I was not Charm City Builders, and if I was just Tyler Banks going out there, I think they would have just as much, if not more, of an impact. That it's like, hey, I'm an individual, and I'm out here doing this, and I'm showing my process of how I went from my first project to where I am now. And I still, even after I've done so many, I have losses, I have failures, I have fears, I have worries, just like, and I'm 15 years in it. So I think I should be boasting more about those weaknesses and like me as an individual, my who I am comes through the brand. And that's kind of what I really like working with you guys. It's like you're keeping me on track of like staying true and authentic
So I
as a
guess it's fair
brand.
to say, from your perspective, branding is much more about authenticity and consistency than it is about a logo or colors.
100% for me.
Gotcha. Our creative director might slightly disagree, but I'm sure there's a balance. Um,
Sorry.
no, it's good.
It's
I
my
think it's
truth.
when you have those things,
Yeah.
when you have the consistency, when you have an ethos, when you have a mission, it makes it very easy to put a visual identity to that. And that's what we as marketers are always looking for. Great entrepreneurs, mission driven, that have a clear idea of what they're trying to accomplish. It just makes it a lot easier to put a visual representation to it.
Hmm.
Um, but you take everything else away. How powerful have client referrals been for you? I mean, has that been something that's been a big driver for you?
Yeah, that's been a massive thing for us. And when I've missed the mark and where we really didn't show compassion, that's come back and backfired on me. But when we do the things right, where we're like we really care about our clients, and the client being in the seller, when we really care about them, and when we go the extra mile, and a lot of times it's like, hey, this person struggles in like physical ability, like they can't move furniture, they can't move things, and they don't have the money to do it. Well, I'm physically able and I have many people around me and I have the resources to help. So when I'm like thinking about their needs first and not thinking about how much money I'm going to make on that deal, that resonates with them. And then when I'm genuinely like sitting on the couch listening to their stories, there's plenty of things that I could be doing, but sometimes I have to like I've realized that I have to just sit there and allocate this time and listen actively, like and really be engaged. And when I do that, man, the power in that, like I have so many people that will call in and say, "You sold such and such sold their house to you. That's my cousin or my grandmother, or like whoever it may be. I want to deal with you, only you." And a lot of times we're offering less than somebody else, but because we took the time and we did something good for these clients and it wasn't a selfish ambition, it comes back over and over and over again. And it's really simple at the end of the day if you're like thinking about the other person on the other side of the transaction. And these principles are like, part of my faith. And it's like if I live that out, it just works.
Totally. I mean, we've encapsulated that in the content side. On the content side, we been doing like case studies basically about these experiences that your customers are having, and they're sharing their delight and how happy they are with what you guys did for them. And I think that's having an effect in terms of a network effect. People are seeing themselves in your customers and saying, "That's like me. I want to work with Charm City Builders because I think that they're gonna take care of me." So you can translate that digitally, but you have to do it right. You have to make sure it's actually done right, and you're taking care of your customers in order for in order to be able to market it at any level of scale. So it's been cool to have that kind of ammunition to be able to go out to the market with real results, real testimonials from real customers that are really happy, and it definitely drives more referrals. Um, so we talked a lot about digital marketing. I want to talk about a couple offline things. Um, Door knocking has been a really powerful thing for real estate agents for many years and people going out to the market. Um, what are your views on, like, especially in this COVID era, like what are your views on door knocking and building relationships at a hyper local level? Like if you don't have a marketing budget, if you don't have the ability to go hire a marketing firm to go run your social media and your content strategy, what kind of analog stuff, what kind of old school stuff have you done, and would you recommend that people can do to get out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, if you're willing and able to do that, it can be very difficult to go randomly talk to somebody you don't know. It takes a certain type of personality to go knock on somebody's door and ask them to sell their house. And I don't do that consistently. I have done it a few times and I just felt maybe like prompted, like something was like, go do this. And I've had some, like one amazing deal I did was a like public storage unit. And this, there was it looked kind of like it needed some work, and I just felt like, you know what, I'm gonna stop what I'm doing. I'm gonna go pull over and look at this property. There was a sign on the door, and that sign said like, "New owner, new management. Call this number if you rent here." Like sloppy, like real sloppy handwriting. And I was like, "This is an opportunity." Like, it was written all over it. Call call the number, and I was like, "Hey, my name's Tyler Banks. I am interested in this property. I'm not a tenant of yours, but I'm interested in potentially buying it. I'm an investor. Bought another property across the street. Would you be interested in selling?" He was like, "You have no idea. I would love to sell this property. How much are you willing to offer?" I was like, "I'm not really sure. Like, what are the numbers on it? Like, he was like, "I don't even know. I just took the property back." He happened to he lent money on it, and it was a terrible situation. So timing was perfect. He came down that same day, met me in person. We shook hands, and I purchased the property at a deep discount. And it was like that encouraged me so much to like do that type of like door knocking, old school type of thing. So if you're gonna do it, like there's definitely opportunities, and you might get a whole lot of no's. And that thing of consistency. If you're gonna do it, you got to do it. We're doing the door hangers, and I really did this essentially to help my nephew, like teach him a few things, and we'll test it out and see how it goes. And I'm willing to spend and throw in some money and see if something works or it doesn't work. It's just learned lessons. I don't look at them as losses. I just look at it as a learned lesson. So I'm willing to do it, and I will do it because I feel like as long as it's like similar to everything else you're doing, like the door hanger that we're putting out looks like the content we're putting on digital. It looks like our TV commercial. I want everything to look similar, and that is a point for our style guide and our creative guys, that I do love that idea of creating something that looks the same in every aspect of what we do. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I
So
think
no,
you're right.
we're running out of time here, and I want to make sure we have some time for the Q&A. But um, you know, I think there's a lot to be said about giving back when you made it to a certain point. Um, what's your view on philanthropy and giving back and the PR that comes with it? Do you look at that as like you do it and you're glad you get the PR, or do you look at it as an investment in getting more customers? Like, what's your view on just the general philanthropy approach?
Yeah, so I love philanthropy. I'm all about it. I think that I have a group of guys that are doing great things, and anytime they ask, for sponsorship, I'm in. And it's vice versa, and that giving, and then it creates a community that you're a part of, and within that community, if you go out and you're like involved and you're shaking hands, they know what you do. It brings back so many opportunities, and I do that as much as possible. Whether it's a sponsoring a golf tournament for like a great charity, it's an event that you're out shaking hands and you're exchanging business cards. And I often struggle with that. I don't even bring the business card. I like go to the event and like somebody asks for a business card. I'm sorry, I don't have it, but this is what I am and this is what I'm about. And those things have led to so many different opportunities and bigger opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten if I wasn't willing to, spend a little bit of money, give a little bit of money, give a little bit of my time and resources. So I'm 100% in on that, and a pusher of doing philanthropic things.
It's a virtuous cycle.
Yes.
Well,
100%.
before we jump into Q&A, any last thoughts or ideas for folks?
I'd say that in my opinion, it's like just get started. I brought this up in one of my last events, and I was just like, there's a first for everything, and you have to start somewhere, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So get started, and then once you get started, be consistent in whatever it is that you're doing. And that's what I've found in the consistency of like, I'm doing this, I'm gonna start here and keep going every week. I'm gonna do the same things over and over and over again, and then I'll start to see what are those things that I'm doing are working, what's not working, and if it's working, keep pushing more into that, and then get rid of the things that aren't working. So consistency, and don't be afraid to start.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Tyler, for joining us. Really appreciate it, and hope you all enjoyed this. Before we break here, I'd love to take some questions. I don't know if anybody's thrown anything out there, but would love to answer any questions you guys might have.
We had a question come up for both of you guys. What was the biggest development or thing that you learned throughout this process? First, for Tyler, working with a marketing agency, an external agency who's not really in the day-to-day with you, but coming on, what's been the biggest revelation from your perspective that provided the most growth? And on the flip side, oftentimes the real estate market is a very interesting and diverse market, a lot of market segmentation. But what was further insights learned in the particular structure that Tyler works with has been the most shocking or like kind of opened up your eyes to some new paths?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Do you want to go with that, or do you want me to start?
Yeah, if you want to start.
All right, I'll start.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been the biggest thing is having that that steering, and like where I'm like, I get an idea and I'm like, I want to jump on it, and I just like, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go to there, I'm gonna go here. You working with Further Insights, they've listened to what I'm about and then kept me focused in on like all things staying in this bubble. Don't like, I can have creative, and you guys listen to me in that, but you're keeping me on track and consistent, and it's part of a comprehensive plan. And that's probably the biggest thing, is the plan and staying on that plan. Otherwise, I would just be shooting darts at things that I think are good ideas. That's probably been the biggest thing for me.
Cool. Yeah, I guess, just in terms of what we're learning about the real estate market is it's very specific to the business itself. I think we're finding you really have to know who your customer is. Let's say you're like Charm City Builders and you're looking to buy homes for cash, and that's your primary business. You want to do fix and flip. You can't be all things to all people. The more focused you are, the more direct you are, and the better the lead quality will be. And that's the practice. Casting a really wide net, it just does not work in a commoditized space, especially in real estate. And I think it applies to most industries that we work with, and work in a pretty wide array of industries. But in real estate specifically, the more niche you can be, the more specific you can be, and the more value you can express to those people, the more leads you're going to get. And it's just that simple.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, if anybody has any follow-up questions, by all means, feel free to email me, Andrew@furtherinsights.com. We'll follow up with the presentation and just thank you all so much for attending. We appreciate it.
Thank you.